In this tutorial, we look into a second method for finding an unknown endpoint of a line segment when we're given the coordinates of one of its endpoints as well as the coordinates of its midpoint. Now, if you watched the previous tutorial, the example we have here is the same as the one we've just seen. The line segment has an endpoint P whose coordinates are known, those are 2, 13, as well as a midpoint M with coordinates 5, 7. And we need to find the coordinates of the endpoint Q. The idea behind this method relies on the formula for the midpoint of a line segment. And let me just add that formula in the upper right hand corner here. There we go. Remember, the midpoint M of a line segment has an x-coordinate which equals to the average of the x-coordinates of its two endpoints, x1 and x2, as well as a y-coordinate which equals to the average of the y-coordinates of its two endpoints. Now, in this example, we know the coordinates of the midpoint. Remember, those were 5, 7. So we can go ahead and write 5, 7 equals to x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. Furthermore, since we know that the endpoint P has coordinates 2, 13, then we can also replace, say, x1 and y1 in this formula by 2 and 13. If we wanted to, we could have chosen to replace x2 and y2 by 2 and 13. It doesn't matter which of the two you choose. We'll replace the values of x1, y1 though. In other words, we're going to say that x1 equals to 2, that's the x-coordinate of point P, and y1 equals to 13, the y-coordinate of point P. So at this stage, we can go ahead and state that 5, 7 has to equal to 2 plus x2 over 2, that's the x-coordinate, and 13 plus y2 over 2. That's the y-coordinate. And the trick now is to split this up into two separate equations. Indeed, the left-hand side of this equation will equal to the right-hand side of this equation if 5 is equal to 2 plus x2 over 2, and if 7 equals to 13 plus y2 over 2. In other words, there are two equations here. 5 equals to 2 plus x2 over 2, and 7 equals to 13 plus y2 over 2. Focusing on this equation first, we can multiply both sides of this equation by 2, which leads us to 2 times 5 equals to 2 plus x2, and that's 10 equals to 2 plus x2. Finally, subtracting 2 from each side, we obtain 8 equals to x2. In other words, x2 equals to 8. And that's the x-coordinate of the endpoint Q. We now solve the second equation, and again we can start by multiplying throughout by 2. That leads us to 2 times 7 equals to 13 plus y2. That's 14 equals to 13 plus y2. And subtracting 13 from each side, we find 1 equals to y2. In other words, y2 equals to 1. And that's the y-coordinate of the endpoint Q. And that's the final answer. We can now state that the endpoint Q has coordinates 8 and 1. And we're done. And so that's how we can find the coordinates of an unknown endpoint using the midpoint formula. And that's it for this tutorial.